A special edition of Block Party. I'm your host, Mike Wahle. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're enjoying, hit that subscribe button, give us a 5-star review, tell your friends, all that good stuff. We're going to start doing a player profile, I think. And it might not always be the Packers, I think, but right now, with Sean Rhyan getting his first start at center and everybody kind of asking how that looked, I wanted to actually just go and break down the tape and go play by play, get a really good feel for what that projection could look like. I tell you right now, I thought he looked really well watching it the first time, going through this tape again. Obviously there's some things you want to consider, but you feel really good about a lot of what he does from a technical standpoint, from a physicality standpoint. I think his demeanor is fantastic. He just does some of the little basic things right. I'll try to point as much out on the film as I can. Obviously, things, there's always, something to work on. Playing left tackle at UCLA his last season, and then, switching to guard, switching to center. There's some immediacy, some bend, some issues. They're not issues, some areas of opportunity that we can certainly look at. But I really enjoyed watching this. I broke it down, not literally every play, but every play of consequence. I'll explain it all on the tape. We break down the first half here. So here's Sean Ryan's first half. Get back to you at the end. Okay, so there's a lot of talk about, how did Sean Rhyan do in that first game at center? This is really a tryout for him. And the thing about Sean is, I think he finished UCLA at left tackle. And so there's some athleticism there. The always the interesting question is, I don't think he was projected as a left tackle when he came into the league from a personnel perspective, but there is some athleticism there. And then the question is always, are you able to play with kind of the suddenness and the bend that is required maybe to play inside? And it's a more physical game inside. They're not better athletes, but they more often than not are more physical inside. Obviously, there's exceptions to that rule. We start talking about Penei Sewell, Trent Williams, those guys. But when you think about who's really having some car crashes, play in and play out, it's the guys that go up against D tackles on a daily basis. So let's check this out. I came up with, I want to say, this is the first half of the Giants game. And what I did is I only am showing what I just call the consequential plays, which are the plays that, there's the keep passes and, the plays where it doesn't have to block anybody, or, it's kind of, or the RPOs where the quarterback's keeping the ball. Those are inconsequential plays. In other words, you could put anybody in there, it's not going to make a difference. So let's just take a look at, the consequential plays in this first half of the football game and see what we see. So we start here, and we're going to have a little double team block. We call this an A or an ace, depending on if you play side or backside. And really what's going to happen here is you're going to see this 3-tech slant. Now, I would say this, generally speaking, if in this kind of situation, you want to, if you see this 3-technique slanting in, you'd love to get a call from the right guard. So then we can just call this like an AA. We block it up like this, we push, and then we get up to the second level, okay? That's not going to happen here, and that's probably a whole nother discussion. But you see on this split flow look, they've got it lined up perfect, really. I mean, this play is out the gate. If you can make that phone, or make that call, we block here, but we don't have that. I don't know if we have that level of communication regardless, but certainly I think at the right guard position now we don't have it. Let's just watch footwork, though, and see what we see. So first step's good. First step, you're stepping behind yourself. You never really like to see that. So every time you step behind yourself, and, sometimes offensive line coaches just don't want to talk about realities of body mechanics, but you can lose ground to gain leverage on your opponent, but just stepping backwards right here is going to put you higher into contact, right? In other words, if I stood up, got in a hip hinge position, and then stepped backwards, my next step is either going to be short because I have to catch myself. It's going to be long because I'm overstriding because I'm trying to make up ground, but I'm going to be high into contact and not have the power that I want. So we'd rather that you just take a timing step flat, and then second step forward, trying to initiate contact here. But generally speaking, getting a little, not too much width, to being a good bumper here. This isn't a bad deal considering they're going, all the way backside to here, and really you want this left guard to come up and be the horsepower. You'd love to see the second step really split the crotch because you're going to have time to get all the way over there. So you'd like to take up more, but as far as, just first play of the game, you certainly could see a lot worse. Good news that you see here is he's battling throughout, as is our left guard Aaron Banks. Trying to finish blocks downfield. Okay, so we go motion into really an I formation. This looks like I right, man. I'm in heaven right now. I backs, 12 personnel. Let's just pretend like 81 is going to be a fullback for us. We'll think it's Will Henderson out there. And we've got a little play action pass. Sean's got to get out to that slanting 3-tech. So they're probably getting a call here because of, I think that might be Banks, but they're probably just going, hey, we're going to just step 2 this way right now. We're going to go backside, blah, 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 blah. Show all this stuff. But he knows he's got to get out to that slanting 3-tech. So 1-2, inside hand wins. Initially, you see that backside hand with the left. Pop, gets him tight, and that really wins the rep for him right there. Do you love his initial footwork again? Stepping underneath yourself? No, you don't like that. Crossover? No, you don't like that. So just from a body position standpoint, there's things to improve on. But we always say in the offensive line room, there's a lot of ways to lose a rep, but that inside hand or that backside hand can win a lot of reps. So he ends up getting that inside hand in or that backside hand. Now you just like to sit and settle, get your feet back underneath you, a little bit wide, and so he loses this guy at the end. Not part of the problem of the play, though. When we talk about this stuff, just as we go through, by the way, like, I don't know how he gets graded. If it's a, assignment, mental error, did he do it, did he not, right? I'm always looking at the process of it because if you follow the process, the footwork, the hand placement, the pad level, the profile, then over time you're just going to have a real successful, series of plays in games. So this is kind of stuff if I was, if I was working with one of these players, this is the kind of the information you try to relay to them. All right, so we go motion across. This I thought was interesting. So this is just a pretty basic, what we just call like a left gap block up here, and then they're going to block out. Maybe it's some sort of combination block. You got a backside B where you're going to rise up here, okay, and then you might have to insert to the safety coming in, okay? Now, it's always interesting, given the fact that the back, even if he steps in and he's not going like horizontal, if he steps in, why would you create a situation by stepping inside? And this is what they're being taught. There's not anybody on this line doing anything wrong, but he's stepping inside foot, okay, and he's stepping here. So they're making this wedge here when this player's outside, as opposed to, picking up, putting on timing step and just loading up. I always think about it this way, man. If I have inside help from my center, or if I'm at tackle, if I have inside help from my guard, I'm loading up with 2 hands, getting my profile right, loading my hips, and on my second step, I'm going to knock the shit out of this guy, right? And if he stays like that, I'm going to do the exact same thing, let my inside hand follow through and keep my outside hand free for this linebacker. And if he steps over to here, if he takes half a step here, I got both hands in his chest, and I'm going to give him everything I got. And that's how we get popular, right? You get paid as a lineman in pass pro, you get popular for run blocking. And this is one of those opportunities to get popular if I'm Aaron Banks. So they step kind of not in a way that I would do this, given the fact that this is, really play side. And because of that, it looks awkward. You can just kind of see the angles. Like, are we trying to move him this way? Are we trying to move him that way? Are we just trying to glance, and are we trying to rise up here? Like, how are we trying to accomplish this goal? Are we saying that, he's just going to try to hit through this hole, and maybe that's why, because we just got straight, we're going to go in the A gaps and we're just going to try to push this guy out. Could very well be the case. I would argue, even if you did that, stepping with this outside foot, leaving this free and then letting him shove over, you get more space naturally to move. And then it's still easy to rise up. Inside hand here by Aaron Banks. You throw him out of the bar. You feel really good about yourself. But nonetheless, you can kind of see like the only thing you can maybe make a comment about is you like the first 2 steps. If this is the aiming point, we don't know exactly what his landmarks are. He's trying to push this through. I just love sticking on this guy I just love sticking on this player as long as possible. And you just see he gets a little bit high at the end. You'd really love to be able to move shoulder to shoulder. This one kind of way to think about this is if they were hip to hip, like if they were both going in this direction, shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, you feel really good about putting this guy in conflict, not knowing where to go. And then, more often than not, it's really hard for that D tackle to get off that block. But what ends up happening here is certainly, Dontavian Wicks is being asked to block. Is that Brian Burns or Abdul Carter? Yeah, Abdul Carter. It's like, sometimes when we scheme this stuff, so if we look this play on paper, you've got all these great blocks, and all you got to do over here is like Dontavian Wicks. You go, hey, all you got to do is, I know you're like 200 pounds, and this guy's like, 250, and he plays with his hand in the ground for a living, but all you got to do is hold him off for a little bit, and no problem. And you see the play, and you're like, well, that was never gonna, it's like in retrospect, probably never gonna work. All right, so we finally got the jumbo look here. Love it. Eye backs again. This could be my favorite personnel group they have. So we got Sean up against, my favorite nose tackle in the league, Dexter Lawrence. And they bring the backer to the A gap here. And you see two things. So, and the most obvious is this, and this is why. And these are the plays. Like if you're watching film all the time, and you see, I'll show this play in real time just so you can see it. It's like, oh, it looks a little janky there. Now, Sean's a big guy, and he kind of absorbs this well. But what really happens here? The splits aren't very good between the guards and the center on either side, really. And because of that, and you got to move, he's going to step on Jordan Morgan's foot right there. And then, it's like all bets are off for everybody. Jordan Morgan's screwed. Sean Rhyan's screwed. Yeah, no good for anyone. That both of them stayed up and this wasn't a pressure is actually amazing. So this is if you're ever watching film, you just kind of go, all right. I don't really think he stepped outside of his frame or anything like that. It's not like he got a real wide step. It's just one of those things that happens. Almost got him on the silent. Good stab. Oh, love it. These are my favorite, man. There's just not enough of this in football anymore. Take your shots, baby. Take your shots. So they're probably going Mike declared here. And so teams run this differently. If you're going here, then, you got a hard inside hand with a step 2 to post. Aaron Banks is going to take this over. And then we love, and if they're over here even more so, this happens a little faster, but what you love to do is whether you're the guard or the center, you want to create consequences for this guy going inside. And so this is what I absolutely love about. I think Sean Ryan's just this kind of guy. I think this is the kind of he's going to do this as often as he can. And you watch the right guard. Jordan's not necessarily in a bad position, right? Like I think he does a really good job here with his inside hand. He's trying to keep his post foot. He's trying to stay square to the line of scrimmage. But right here, because a lot of these guys are trying to win inside hand and then always grab with his outside hand. So it's this new catch. It's like they're doing the Alex Gibbs run blocking in Pass Pro, which whatever you're into. But when he comes back inside here, it really turns into a wrestling match, and he's dropping his back foot and everything. So if this guy, the next time this guy goes inside, he's probably thinking shit, last time I did that, I got my block knocked off. So fantastic. I think this is where Jordan, I don't know if he's trying to fake a guy here. I mean, when you get franchise tagged or franchise money for playing quarterback, you got to be real smart about that. It's funny. It's like we're all, how do I say this the right way? It's funny. It's like we're all football players and, tough guys and this and that. But some of these hits, if that's a running back, it's probably a bounce up. All right, we got Malik Willis in. That was the dreaded shoulder injury. brief. Okay, this is where I think Sean Rhyan really excels. Maybe as in contrast to. So because this backer's outside, instead of like doing some sort of double here, particularly because this back's going to have to come across, you see the width. So the width here tells the story, right? As far as what direction that running back's going. And I hate this play, but I love this play if we send the center to widen this hole, which they do, and they do a great job of it. And I talked about this on our last show. Like, this is a great play by Aaron Banks getting his nose tackle, but let's just focus on Rhyan here. Good first step. Just stays on track. Gets the guy to widen. Uses his hands. Extends out. Fantastic job. I mean, I want to go back and praise Aaron Banks here because it's such a great job by him. I mean, footwork, hip roll, backside hand, everything. You'd love to finish it, just get vertical, but God, what a great job. That's how that play's supposed to run. So what I think of historically this season has been the worst play in football for the Packers. This is how you can make it work. Good job by Dobbs. But you see, Sean Rhyan so far, man, it's like you're watching this game, you're going, listen, it's his first start, right? It's not perfect, but this is pretty satisfactory, yeah? Okay, you see he's getting held here. This is, you got to stay low. Obviously, you're playing against an all-pro. And I think that's maybe the biggest takeaway here. You got to stay low. And there's two ways to run this play. This is not an outside zone run. So, my preference here is you got to get movement somewhere. Are you going to get movement here? Well, that's a single block. Are you going to get movement here? Well, you got to double. So double him, go through the guy, because the consequence of him shuffling here really doesn't matter. Like, unless he shoots your gap, you don't have to come off. So I feel like they avoid this and they're kind of like, 1, 2, and just get out of there, and they want to push him by. Maybe he jumps back. But man, you'd love to see, first step down, second step strike, and keep that outside hand free like he's trying to. But really, just bumper this, take it as vertical as possible. Jordan Morgan and the nose tackle are going to push you this way. And as he moves, man, you can come off late, but really keep shoulder pads on the biggest player on the field for as long as possible, and don't let him dictate how this looks. Because right now, you're trying to separate, and it looks great if it's an outside zone play. But really, you're fighting against each other. Now, you're pushing back here. He's pushing this way. You're trying to get up to this guy. And all the while, like, he's going to cut off this block. He's probably cutting this play back. Not a bad play, right? Not a bad play because, honestly, when you look at this, he does a good job of extending, and that alone makes him, like, one thing you want to think about from a lineman's perspective. I want to do one of two things. I either want to remove this person, 1 yard, 2 yards off the line of scrimmage, okay? And if I don't feel like I can do that, I want to get his shoulder pads pointed that way. I want to get his numbers pointed towards the sideline. In other words, I don't think that if he's running towards the sideline and we cut, I don't think he can turn around. It's as simple as to put it. If he was right now to attack Jordan Morgan, bang, bang, stab him with that left hand and just sit there, and all the same stuff happened, he's just sitting in the hole. Jordan Morgan's trying to push against him. He's like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm 360, right? Shoulder pads, he sees numbers and everything. He's not going anywhere. They got nowhere to run. But because of the manner they come off, and maybe they're trying to sell this as an outside zone, and that's why they're putting that backhand and just kind of running through. Because they get that shoulder pad pointed this direction, he's able to stay on that block long enough to cut it back. Now, I still think, for my money, I'm trying to double and get this guy turned. So even if I got a yard, off the line of scrimmage and still got a shoulder turn, I feel good about it. I can come off this guy late. I mean, again, it's an opinion thing. I just think it's a better way to do business. And the reason I say that is he can cut a yard deeper. The reason I think that's better, right? He can go here, and he's got it. Let's say these guys removed 1 yard. He's got another yard of free space. This cut's not as severe. He doesn't have to go horizontal to vertical as fast. So that's kind of just one way to think about it. This is a good job by Rhyan. You'd see at the second level, you'd like him, and it's because he's getting held, but he's high, and just one of the general things to look at at the center position, especially coming off like playing tackle, is like, are you playing with enough kind of hip hinge? What's your profile like? How's your pad level? Okay, I think we just got a base block here on the big man. And listen, for my money, that's pretty good. So he's backside here. And so here's what they've said, right? This is just like we're running a double team, okay? And all you got to do is not get caved in. We don't expect you to move this guy off the spot. We're not going to try to get you to like influence block and hook him because we're in our goal line package, right? We've got our jumbo guy in. Just sit here and don't get blocked back. And he does exactly what he's supposed to. And again, it's Rhyan. That left hand of Rhyan's, it's pretty good. You see it. He is winning inside hand a lot on this film. Rolls his hips through. Sometimes he takes like a double step with one foot or the other. This time he does it with his left. He's not always bringing that second step. But part of that, I think, is you're down on the goal line. Things happen fast. You're just trying to get your leverage spot, get those hands inside, win. Bop, 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 bop. He runs, hips, call it even. Not a bad job at all. So contrast it with this play. And look, Kevin Mawai was one of the only guys I've ever seen who was actually able to like jump up in the air, snap the ball, jump up, and bat this guy's helmet down. He would just drop, right? Now, we're just not there yet. Do you want to take your backside shoulder and try to run it through his play side thigh? We're running the ball here. We're not tossing the ball is the key thing. So if you're tossing the ball and you want to do this cutesy shit, you can do it. If you're trying to run the ball on a handoff, you don't want to get the quarterback tackled. So you got to put up some kind of fight right here. All you're really trying to do is get your helmet across, win your landmark, run your feet. You got to win with this step. If there's a line here, you got to step over it, bring your second step, and stay low. I mean, this is a very, very difficult block. And what happens with difficult blocks sometimes is guys, instead of relying on their technique, they just don't trust it because like that's, in this case, it might be Dexter Lawrence. I need to do something clever, right? And then you lose and you feel like an idiot. It happens to everybody. But it happens here. So he gets real lucky that he doesn't, he hurt Malik Willis. They might fumble this. I mean, there's a lot of bad things that could have happened because that play's just not well blocked. Obviously, the backside, Jordan Morgan doesn't get anything on that D tackle, and so he's basically got a guy on his thigh, and then he's Dexter Lawrence up his grill. So we go out of motion. We go motion out of two backs here, and this is kind of it. Look, they run some of this influence stuff. They want to get the double here, and they take this step away and then come up late. But I'm telling you, this position blocking that has kind of pervasively invaded the National Football League, like I just hate it. So you're going to see he basically just jumps out and gets split-legged here, okay? And then ends up trying to position himself with his ass in the hole instead of like trying to move the guy off the spot. Instead of, contrast that with take a horizontal step, get your second step in the ground, make contact, right, with a landmark, and then if you want to adjust, with inside hands and try to get to your spot, that's fine. But just, this jump back, and then we position block here through. I think that's a lot of why you see difficulty running the football inside sometimes is like we're just generally not trying to move people very much. And you see, this is just split flow, man. Like this play could very well come out this play side. You see his angle, right? But we're position blocking here. And so because we got Brooks coming back, he's just going to try to cut this. And again, because of Aaron Banks's footwork here, they are intentionally trying to avoid this guy. And maybe maybe this is it. Maybe, hey, we would just rather try to position block this and we'll cut back late because it influences these running backs. But kind of for my money, man, I'd love to see that. I'd just like to see that more physical play there. But again, they might be coached that way. If that's what he's being told to do, he's doing a fine job of it. Simple stuff here. Just staying big. One thing that he's got good presence. And what I mean by that is, left hand always shoots well, and he does a good job basically of staying square to the line of scrimmage, so he doesn't get like a situation where even though he's got an open hip here, it's not like a huge stagger way back here where if he gets hit, he just opens right up to the quarterback. He does a good job of trying to stay square to the line of scrimmage. Good hands. I'm really impressed with his hands more than anything. Aaron Banks knows that there's going to be a spike, so it looks like they have a call on, because these guys are all doing this. So they've got this, and I think what's happening here is we're anticipating that at the center position, not stepping with our left foot. Just coming back and getting hands on. Good job with your hands again. Good body presence. It's all you need to do at the center position right there. Okay, this is another one of those plays where they're going to spike this, and you may or may not have a call. I don't know if you can read this. I feel like they, if you watch enough tape, you probably read this. But let's say they don't read it. It's fine. Again, this is one of those scenarios where your player is back here. You've got, what we'll just call an A block up here. Tough blocks here on the cutoff, right? You just got base up. Or you might even have some sort of duo or double up to there. And this is a really, really good play. You got two doubles inside. 1, 2. You got the tough block being made by your best player. Obviously those tight ends are in a bad position because, they're not that physical. But inside you feel really good about it. Your 5 best blockers you feel good about. And then the way we run this, it's like, I don't know where we're going. And this is this isn't out. This is like middle zone. So your aiming point is either there or maybe backside of the tight end. And you're trying to get through. And I think these are tough because you see guys, Scotty Wells, Mike Flanagan, they're out fast. And what happens is, if you turn your shoulders here, if you don't keep this outside arm free, if you put your arm back in, if you don't stab out, if you're high, right? If you see all that body so this guy can just put his hand in his chest and move over, then you get banged around in here, particularly when this guy spikes. Now, if this guy doesn't spike, maybe you don't notice a problem, or maybe he just falls over because his feet are crossing over and this and that and the other. But it's these plays where there's some improvement to be made. It starts with your first step. Second step, you see the crossover, and you're just in a weak position to make contact with, a 330-pound D tackle. So if you're in that spot, and then this guy's got that much leverage on you, you're going to have a hard time regardless. You're going to get knocked sideways. Now, ideally in this scenario, they make an AA call. He just shows up here, double, and we push this. As this guy comes over, you feel really good about that. Now you got, really, you're going to cut your edge here. And all we got to do is work on that footwork, and then he can get underneath. We should be in good shape. Okay. And I think this is hard. You just watch 86 out here. I know we're focused on Sean Rhyan, but he's about to take it right in the face. Both hands are. He's trying to bring his hips, but you see, the hands are, it's like the initial footwork or the initial profile tells you everything. Watch, this is a guy who gets paid to do this and only this. Yeah. You don't see that, the elbows are trying to be in. It's kind of a tighter profile. And then you see arms are all out like that. Yeah. Backside, you're trying to pull that elbow back to get movement. but everybody else is, trying to get hands inside. And this is what's tough when you're at the tight end position. You don't spend a lot of time on that. You're just not very good at it. This is that fold block. Yeah, the only thing you'll say here is like you just, this is 22 is a safety. You'd like to see a little more physicality here, maybe. Obviously, gets underneath him. And I think this is if I was going to pick out one thing about Sean Rhyan in this game, it's like just learn how to play a little bit lower. Because I think he does a lot of the other stuff well. His footwork's not, his footwork, he has good feet, not great footwork yet, but I think he has really good feet. I think his hands are good. I think there's some plays in the second half, particularly at the very, very beginning of the second half. There's 2 plays you're just going like, ouch, it's a problem. But that stuff does happen. We talked about this one already, though. It's like, they're going backside B here. Got a backside B to a guy who's leaving. It's like, just sit and don't let this guy come over and make a play. Tough sport. Tough sport. All right. 2 tight ends, little wing personnel, wing left, under center. I love the under center. Bringing in Watson to do the dirty work. The triple team. Probably my favorite play of the game, man. I know it's a touchdown, but it's also, so they do a little, they're like, okay, they got to move. Okay, Dexter Lawrence like, I'm going to play 2-eye. You think they're going to put 3 dudes on me right now? That's phenomenal. It worked. It's called wadding it up, boys. So if you're coaching this guy up, how would you get him? So I would say, hey, let's get a little bit better. How do we do it? And you step over that line, right? Gain some leverage. So you can lose ground here to gain leverage. So gaining leverage just means I'm in a better body position after my first and second or first step to block him than I was when I started, right? And when you step behind yourself or just step back, you've lost leverage. You're not in a better position. You're in a worse position because you might come in higher in a contact or you're going to be short on your landmark. So those are kind of the simple things that we look at. And you can just see, it's really easy to see Aaron Banks' pad level, Sean Ryan's pad level here. And it's, in part because of that footwork and the distance he has to cover versus what Aaron Banks has to cover. If you got to cover more distance, you got to gain more leverage on that first step. But great hip drive, that notwithstanding, look at the feet, look at the hip drive, look at the finish. Look at the finish. You just love it. I love that part of Aaron Banks' game. I love that part of Sean Ryan's game. All right. I don't even know if this is consequential or not. I put it in just because I like the way that he stays square. And I like the way his feet are moving. It just looks more active, right? Like this I like the profile. I like the base. I like the footwork. I like the awareness. I like the head snap. It's just he's moving around. He's trying to make things happen. He's got good hands. I liked it for the most part. He tries to attack people with his hands and keeps his head out of it, right? Good job. It's a good job. All right, they're dicking around here on the defensive line. So they got 3 to a side. We call this 3 to a side, right? So you got 1, 2, 3. And basically what you're doing is trying to single everybody up, right? Man. And, he good first step, by Sean Ryan trying to get that leverage. You'd like to bring that second. You can tell he gets hit right in the chest when that second step's trying to get put over. So he's a little bit wide. Now you got to do a little hand fighting, but your boy's got to help you a little bit. Like I don't know where Jordan Morgan's sitting right now, but Jordan Morgan looks like he thinks that Sean Ryan's going to bypass their best interior defensive lineman to come help him. He doesn't even put a hand on him. Oh, man, I didn't see that before. If you're in film, I'm just telling you, imagine you're sitting in film, right? And you guys, you won the game, feeling good about yourself. No one's going to, you can kind of give each other shit, right? And you watch this. Sean Ryan, stop the film. Turn the lights on. You just look over at your boy like, are you kidding me? Oh, man, it's bad. All right, 3 to the side. The other head, maybe they'll tell you, worked over there. Does it work over here? Now they go just straight rush. First and second step by Sean Rhyan here are really good. One thing that guys do a terrible job of that he does a great job of, if you got this big dude at, this guy's coming, right? He's not messing around. And he's a big, strong guy. You bring this first step, sometimes these guys will bring that second step here and not back. So they're trying, in other words, he needs to try to stay square here, but a lot of guys will just open up because he's scared, he's so big. So he takes this like reach step, and then this one just swings over, and then he gives up this lane. He does a really, really good job. First, second step, 1, 2. And look how square he is. Like, I know this doesn't look perfect, but he got his left hand in again, hips through, and feet are relatively square. Like, he's pointed towards the line of scrimmage. That's going to be a winning rep against a really good, one-on-one pass rusher. What happens here? Little trip? Yeah, little trip. All right, so as you can see, like, there's a lot of good on that tape. If you're looking at it from Sean Ryan's perspective, like, there's first game playing against Dexter Lawrence and playing against Big Blue in New York. I just think there's a lot of room for growth. I think he's got a high ceiling at that position. You love the athleticism. You love the toughness that he brings. You go back and watch the tape, and you start watching what Aaron Banks and Sean Rhyan are trying to do from a finishing standpoint. And man, that kind of stuff gets me fired up. Like, that is war daddy effort. I love that. I want to see more of it. You want to see it from more guys. But we'll try to do this every week now as part of kind of what we can offer here on this channel. But that's a wrap on this week's show. Thanks again to all the Packers Nation. Send in the questions, send in the comments. If you're enjoying the breakdowns, hit that subscribe button, give us a 5-star rating, and maybe share it with another NFL fan you like. I don't know. I'm Mike Wahle. I'm here to educate and entertain. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. Let's go Pack.